Hello, welcome to Aviva Studios. You may have heard that I'm a Christian. Today I'm going to talk about what it takes to be a good Christian. And I'm going to do it by showing you my favorite Bible verses. This is not a ranking list because you can't really rank Bible verses. So I'm just going to give you great Bible verses that have to do with being a good Christian. The Bible verses inform my understanding of what it means to be a good Christian and my understanding of the faith in general. Because, being a good Christian is, of course, an aspect of the faith. So, let's get into it. The first thing you have to understand is that you have free will. I think free will is very important to my understanding of Christianity. Man must be willfully bad, right? So, one of my favorite Bible verses is Genesis 4:7. If you do well, will your face not be cheerful? And if you do not do well, sin is lurking at the door, and its desire is for you, but you must master it. I think this one verse in Genesis shows that people have free will. The first step to being a good Christian is acknowledging that you have free will and the power to resist sin. Next thing is that you must be good to people you don't like. Romans 12:20. But if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him a drink. For in so doing, you will heap burning coals on his head. You must be good to people you don't like. One of the best verses. Now, I think these next two verses are supposed to be a message to men to be better to women. Matthew 5:29. Now, if your right eye is causing you to sin, tear it out and throw it away from you. For it is better for you to lose one of the parts of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand is causing you to sin, cut it off and throw it away from you. For it is better for you to lose one of the parts of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. This to me sounds like it's telling men to stop being pervy. Right, like stop being pervy to women. And if you are pervy to women, then you should cut off your hand. Jesus cared about women, right? There's verses about how he was talking to women and how he saved an adulterous woman. So I think that might be the point. It's not exactly clear, but I think the point is that he cares about women. Jesus says, don't be a perv. The next one is Ephesians 5:28. So husbands also ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his own wife loves himself, for no one has ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ also does the church, because we are parts of his body. Pretty self-explanatory. This next verse seems to be related to the idea of being good to people you don't like. Jonah 4:9. But God said to Jonah, do you have a good reason to be angry about the plant? And he said, I have good reason to be angry, even to the point of death. Then the Lord said, you had compassion on the plant for which you did not work and which you did not cause to grow, which came up overnight and perished overnight. Should I not also have compassion on Nineveh, the great city in which there are more than 120,000 people, who do not know the difference between their right hand and their left, as well as many animals? This is the end of the book of Jonah. And God tells Jonah that he must care about people who are completely lost and don't know what to do, even though those people did terrible things. Now, the next one. Matthew 19:21. Jesus said to him, if you want to be complete, go and sell your possessions and give them to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come follow me. Jesus explains to a young rich man how to be saved, and he says he must be as charitable as possible. We must be as giving and charitable as possible. The next one is simple and to the point. 1 Peter 2:1. Therefore rid yourselves of all malice and all deceit and hypocrisy and envy and all slander. Right? Not much explanation here. But I think it's worth saying that yes, Christians shouldn't spread gossip around. or make fun of people behind their back. To continue that thought, James 1:26. If anyone thinks himself to be religious, yet does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, this person's religion is worthless. Pure and undefiled religion in the sight of our God and Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. The idea of charity was brought up there, so I think I'll continue that thought. One of my favorite Bible verses, something that encouraged me to do better in life, is Acts 2:41. So then, those who had received his word were baptized, and that day there were added about 3,000 souls. They were continually devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching, and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. Everyone kept feeling a sense of awe, and many wonders and signs were taking place through the apostles. And all the believers were together and had all things in common, and they would sell their property and possessions and share them with all, to the extent that anyone had need. This is probably one of the reasons Christianity became popular in Rome. And finally, the last verse I want to talk about, Matthew 7:1. Do not judge, so that you will not be judged. For in the way you judge, you will be judged. And by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, and ignore the log in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. So this verse is not about judging people at all. It's about being a hypocrite. Do not give people a measure that you cannot measure up to. Don't say don't steal when you're stealing. And don't say don't gossip when you are gossiping. So these are all the Bible verses that teach me how to be a good Christian. Or at the very least, it gives you the basic idea, because there's a lot more than this. But these are some very important things to remember. I hope you liked it. Have a nice day. Okay, so I'm recording this a little later. Something that I would like to add that makes Christianity special to me is something that the Bible teaches that Christians sadly don't live up to. And that is this: to always strive for perfection. Which sounds like I'm asking for a lot. But if you pay attention to the text, it really isn't a lot. Right? It's basically just the Old Testament plus a little bit more from Jesus. Christianity teaches people that there is something worth punishing and something worth doing. This is a belief that is essential for any nation. And then Jesus also comes along and says, you got to do as much as you can. Right, so he adds on top of it and says, keep on doing more. Right? You think that you're not a murderer, but you hate your brother. You think you're a living person, but you only love your friends. Right? For example. The Old Testament tells us in Isaiah 1:16, wash yourselves, make yourselves clean. Remove the evil of your deeds from my sight. Stop doing evil. Learn to do good. Seek justice. Rebuke the oppressor. Obtain justice for the orphan. Plead for the widow's case. And Deuteronomy 10:17 says, for the Lord your God is the God of gods and the Lord of lords, the great, the mighty, and the awesome God, who does not show partiality, nor take a bribe. Right, so we shouldn't do that either. He executes justice for the orphan and the widow, and shows his love for the stranger by giving him food and clothing. So show your love for the stranger, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. Also says in Leviticus 19:33, when a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong. The stranger who resides in your land shall be to you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So the Old Testament has a lot of verses like that. And then in the New Testament, Jesus tells us to go the extra mile in Matthew 5:41. And then in the same chapter, he says, You have heard that it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? And not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Jesus Christ tells people that they must do as much as they can. But most people on earth don't do that, right? Not even Christians. I've heard that America has a big problem with dirty cities. Why don't the Christians in America clean up the cities? I've been thinking about this for a while, right? So we need to be doing as much as we can, but we just don't. Thanks for listening.